Hey there, it is Saturday, so it's movie night, and I'm here with another quarantine quadruple feature for anyone that wants some movie recommendations. Although a lot of places in the country have opened back up, and some states are like pretending coronavirus is no longer a thing. I'm not really messing around with that. Just finished our 13th week of quarantine, and for the past 2 weeks for our quarantine quadruple features, I've been programming movies centered around Black voices, Black filmmakers, Black actors, Black-centric films. And I don't want to halt that conversation because our country is really making some progress. These protests are yielding some results. So I don't want to shift gears completely. I still want to be able to touch on some of these aspects and show some support where I can for the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'm going to be talking about some films, but our topic is going to shift a bit tonight. While we're still in June, I did want to have a gay pride night for some of our film selections. So tonight we're going to be focusing on some films centered around gay voices. But before we hop into some of those films, I do want to talk about some other cool stuff that happened this week. Dave Chappelle released on YouTube 846, which is about a 27-minute comedy special. He doesn't have a lot of jokes in it. It's very serious, talking about George Floyd and the protests and some of the senseless murders that have been going on by the police. And it's phenomenal. I think he is a real deep thinker. He's taking a very philosophical look at some of the stuff that's going on in this country, and I highly recommend checking that one out. Spike Lee also dropped his newest film today, but you'll be watching this tomorrow, and it's called The Five Bloods, and it's about four Black men going back to Vietnam to recover the body of their fifth soldier from their platoon that they lost. And really, they're going to uncover some gold that they found in Vietnam and buried, and now they're much older and they want to go back and get this gold. So it's told on two storylines: when they're younger in the Vietnam War, and then now as they're older going back to retrieve this gold. Like all Spike Lee films, this one is really a history lesson masked in a film. So this one is kind of like a caper film wrapped in a Vietnam War action movie, wrapped in a drama centered around what it means to be Black in this country, fighting for this country. And I think it was a very unique take on the Vietnam story because we don't see Black voices telling that story very often, even though there were a lot of Black soldiers in Vietnam. And it's through the very original voice of Spike Lee. So it's very interesting to see how he directs kind of action sequences. I would also recommend HBO's Watchmen. Now, I actually watched that a few months ago, but just kind of looking back on it today, the way that they unearth some of the systemic racism in this country is really brilliantly told. Also, today, I just finished, over the past couple days, I've been watching OJ Made in America. This is like a 7-hour documentary made by Ezra Edelman, a Black filmmaker. What I was not expecting was for this movie to delve so deeply into the racist justice system in America, as well as the police departments, especially the LAPD. This movie really dives deep into the Watts riots of 1965, as well as the Rodney King Los Angeles riots of 1992. The movie really uncovers a lot of systemic racism that this country deals with, especially in the police force, and how that had a major outcome in the case of the O.J. Simpson trial. And I just finished rewatching The People vs. O.J. Simpson, which I thought was actually a really good season of television. I thought it was really well written, but this documentary is absolutely phenomenal, and I was not expecting it to be as timely and relevant for the moment we're in right now. Now, I do want to also elevate and amplify some Black voices in the gay community. In a film that I don't own it, and I'm bummed because I'm only programming films that I own, so I can kind of like show the box and play them on my projector. But Sean Baker's film Tangerine, I think, is a really wonderful film. It stars a transgender woman who's going around town looking for her pimp on Christmas, and it's really brilliantly made. It's made entirely on an iPhone, which is very impressive because it doesn't look like that. It's filmed very well. But Tangerine, definitely check out if you haven't seen that. Also, one of my favorite films about gay folks, is Angels in America, written by Tony Kushner. This was made for HBO, and it's really beautiful. It's very long though. It's like 6 hours, so we're not watching it tonight. But if you have HBO, definitely check out Angels in America if you haven't. I really love this movie, miniseries, whatever you want to call it. Another recommendation, the amazing documentary Paris is Burning, and that one really highlights the gay black community and the creation of ball culture. And also on HBO, I've been watching We're Here, and this is like the best show on TV right now. I love We're Here. It's 3 drag queens. 2 of them are black drag queens, Shangela and Bob the drag queen, and they are going to towns where they don't necessarily have a lot of gay people, and then they put on a drag show, and they pull people from the community to perform in the drag show. It's beautiful. Every episode gets me choked up. It's incredibly moving. So I'm actually filming this really late Friday night, and today was the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting. And our wretched, toxic administration has chosen today to strip back healthcare precautions for the LGBTQ community because they like their heinous actions to be as symbolically hateful as possible. We're really living in a very hateful time, and I know there's a lot of good people out there that are combating that and trying to make this world as good as we can, but sometimes it feels very overwhelming and frustrating with some of the actions that are being taken against so many people that are living in this country. So I think it's really important for us today to focus on some films kind of centered around the plight of gay people in this country. That's what's going on as of Friday. We'll see what happens on Saturday once I'm posting this. But anyway, vote them out. We're going to try to shift this to a more positive light and focus on some films that I really love that are dealing with the LGBTQ community. Let's dive into the movies that we are going to watch tonight. So our first movie tonight, we are going to be combining some black voices with the gay community as well. We are going to look at Moonlight, masterpiece by Barry Jenkins. I'm actually really excited to revisit this movie. I've only seen it one time when it came out, and I was incredibly moved. I thought it was a beautiful vision of how necessary human connections are in our lives and the path that your life can take if you don't have those connections. Mahershala Ali obviously won his first Academy Award for this movie. He's terrific in the film. There's not much for me to say about this movie. I mean, it won Best Picture. Everyone knows Moonlight. That's what we're starting off with. Beautiful film. Movie number 2 is another drama. We've got some dramas planned for tonight. It stars 2 of the best actors that we have. One of them is a black actor. One of them is a white actor. One of them is Denzel Washington playing a lawyer. One of them is Tom Hanks playing a man suing his job that he got fired from for AIDS discrimination. The movie is Jonathan Demme's Philadelphia. This is a real stark portrayal of the discrimination facing someone with AIDS. And when I saw this movie in the 90s, I had never seen someone kind of with AIDS represented in film or television in this way, where you see the person getting sick and you see the discrimination happening. And the way Jonathan Demme films that, you feel the disgust that people have. It really puts you in the shoes of Tom Hanks as effectively as possible. I think Jonathan Demme is a very terrific, versatile filmmaker. He's able to get empathy from the viewer in any type of story. So obviously this one focuses on a gay man who has AIDS and his lawyer. Silence of the Lambs is a completely different film and like a perfect movie. He also made concert films. He made a concert film for Neil Young. He made Stop Making Sense for the Talking Heads. Spalding Gray, Swimming to Cambodia. He did Rachel Getting Married, which I think is a really brilliant film. So he's an incredibly versatile filmmaker, and I think he does a terrific job on this one as well. He, of course, won the Academy Award for Best Director for Silence of the Lambs. He's no longer with us, but he left behind a very impressive body of work. Bruce Springsteen, I believe, also won Best song for this film. But Tom Hanks won the Academy Award for Best Actor. And then the next year, he won it again for Forrest Gump. So he back-to-backed Best Actor Academy Awards. Denzel Washington also has 2 Academy Awards for Supporting Actor. He won for Glory in 1990, and then he won for Training Day in 2002. So 2 of our greatest actors, not just because they have the Academy Awards. That doesn't always mean it's a great performance, but these are 2 wonderful actors, and watching them play opposite each other, which I don't think these 2 have really done very much else on screen together, but it's a very powerful film, and it was a film that really affected me and kind of made me look differently at kind of AIDS. I didn't really know much about it, and I didn't know that people were discriminated because of it, so this movie really opened up my eyes in that way. Jonathan Demme's Philadelphia. Okay, movie number 3. The movies that I'm pulling out today are all pretty well-known movies. I'm not pulling out any like undiscovered gems, but I'm dusting off a few that if you haven't watched recently are all movies that I personally really love and am moved by. And with no exception, Gus Van Sant's Milk. Of course, Sean Penn won the Academy Award for this film. He gives terrific performance as Harvey Milk, the first openly gay man ever elected to a major public office. He was a trailblazer. He was a really important figure in gay history, American history, the history of politics. He is with James Franco in this movie, and for 2 straight men playing gay, I guess I can't speak for if they're straight or not, but the chemistry is amazing. Their love story is so sweet, and watching them like as they like wrestle or as they have like intimate scenes together, it is so intimate that you feel like you're a fly on the wall. It feels like you're spying on an actual couple. I think their relationship is really beautiful in this movie. And of course, the rest of the movie is really terrific as well. All of the kind of political aspects of it and where the story kind of tragically unfolds. It's made by Gus Van Sant, who was a relatively experimental filmmaker, but every once in a while, he'll just whip out a straight drama like Milk or Good Will Hunting or To Die For and knocks it out of the park. He's a terrific filmmaker, and I think this one is no exception. Okay, final movie of the night is actually one of my favorite movies, John Cameron Mitchell's masterpiece, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. He originally wrote this for the stage and then eventually adapted it into a film. This came out in 2001. I was a senior in high school. I went and saw it, and this movie blew me away. It's music, first of all. The music is amazing. It's creativity, the energy the film has, and how emotional and beautiful and touching the movie was as well. It really moved me. And I was a senior in high school, and I wrote for my school newspaper. I wrote movie reviews, and I remember writing a really glowing review for this movie. I gave it an A+, and a kid came up to me, and he was like, "Paul, what's this weird-sounding movie that you gave an A+ to?" And I was like, "Oh, you've got to go see it." It was only playing in like one theater in the Arizona town I was in, like the Art House Theater. And I was like, "Oh, you've got to go see it. It's about, this kid who's born in Germany, a boy, but he grows up and he wants to become a woman and be the lead singer of this kick-ass punk rock and roll band." And it details the various love lives that he has of the men that he's in love with throughout his life. And I remember looking at this kid, and the look he had on his face was like, "You gave that an A+?" And I was just like, "Fuck off, you plebeian, get out of here." But the movie is wonderful. I mean, if you have not seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, do not sleep on this movie. This is the best rock musical since Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that's the movie we are going to wrap up on. We're going to end on a bang with Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So those are the 4 movies that we're going to watch tonight. We're going to be celebrating Gay Pride with some of my favorite movies centered around gay characters or gay filmmakers, gay actors. And hope you guys are staying safe, watching movies, and happy Pride.